If you're taking your baby or toddler camping in Europe this summer, then watch this first. These tips could save your holiday. Welcome to Family Camping Europe. We're Mike and Bree, and between us, we've explored nearly 100 campsites across Europe. Here we share our hints, tips, and honest campsite and accommodation reviews. So if you're like us and enjoy exploring Europe via tent, van, or mobile home, hit the subscribe button to follow our journey to campsite number 100. Whether you're staying in a tent, camper van, caravan, mobile home, or any sort of accommodation on a campsite in Europe. So the first thing I want to talk about is planning and preparation. So camping with a baby or a toddler is absolutely doable. You want to be organised. You want to have all your eggs in a row, all your ducks in a row. I don't even know what the phrase is, but you want to have everything figured out, on paper, done, ready, let's go. First thing you want to do is a trial night. You want to test it out close to home so that if anything goes wrong or if there's anything you've not really thought about, you can basically go home and fix it. Like if you've forgotten something that's really important, then you're going to be able to add that to your list and you're going to remember all the things that you need to do. Once you've done your practice night, you're going to want to find somewhere in France, in Spain, in Italy, the Netherlands, wherever you want to go. But personally, I would stick still quite close to the port or the airport or wherever you're traveling. Somewhere that you feel close to home. And the reason being is you don't want to travel far, especially if you're breastfeeding. That's going to mean lots of stops, nappy changes, milk making, food stops. With a baby they need to get out, I think it's every 2 hours. You should really be getting them out of a car seat to walk around and run around. So you're going to want to stay closer to a port, or at least have quite a lot of stop-offs planned on the way. The best thing about travelling through France, for example, is the service stations here are fantastic for young children. There are small parks, sometimes there's little soft play areas inside, there's lots of food options. The baby changing areas are fantastic, they're clean, they have like a special key that you ask for to unlock. And so whilst you can stay further away from the port and you've got those service stations options, I would stick closer to a port. Now the problem with doing that is weather. Obviously northern France and the Netherlands are your best options for staying close to a port. So you may want to fly to a campsite and stay in a mobile home or in a pre-erected tent. That way you're closer to an airport, you can get a taxi to the accommodation, the campsite, and try and stick within like 45 minutes, I would say. I do actually have a blog post on the website listing all my favourite campsites for toddlers, and I'm also going to make another video, so you might want to hit that subscribe button and follow along for the next video, which will have my top 15 campsites for toddlers. So this is for you if you are tent camping with your baby or toddler. First things first is I would pick somewhere with a really grassy emplacement like this, if you can. We had a 1-year-old and our emplacement was so full of sticks, stones, dry, dusty. It was really bad for a crawling baby. When realistically what you want is something like this. They can crawl around, it's grass. If they put it in their mouth, it's really not the end of the world, but if they put rocks in their mouth, it's obviously not great. However, if you do end up with a pitch that's like that, then having a large ground sheet, picnic blankets, anything you can find that can fill that floor space is perfect. We didn't have that, so in fact we used some blow-up paddling pools that our toddler could climb to and from. It was kind of okay, but it wasn't the best solution, to be honest. We should have gone out and bought some tarp or something. Another handy tip, if you have a little baby, tents obviously get boiling hot. So what you could do is get either a bassinet pushchair where your baby can have an outdoor nap, or the pack and play that we could put outside, put it under a shady tree, make sure that they're obviously protected from the sun. Basically a winner when you are camping with babies and toddlers, especially in a tent, caravan, probably even a mobile home if you don't have aircon. So some of the campsites that we go to have special baby facilities. They'll have baby baths, small shower areas, changing areas. However, there's a lot of campsites we go to where it's just a bog standard shower. You're going to want to have like a big tub that you'd like maybe pack your food or something in, and you can fill that with water and make it into a makeshift baby bath. Otherwise you can fill up a paddling pool. We have like inflatable paddling pools that we've filled up before and let baby use that like a small bath as well. Layers, so in a tent obviously the temperature will drop dramatically overnight and you won't really have any heating in there. So make sure you've got layers. We normally would put baby to sleep in just pyjamas, and then throughout the night we'd add a layer as it got colder, so then the sleeping bag wouldn't actually go on until maybe like 10 o'clock at night when we would go to bed. So we'd make sure that we change it. I know obviously some people are a bit cautious about waking up a sleeping baby. However, I don't know what it is about nature and being outdoors and the air there, it just didn't seem to be a problem. Our tent is a nightfall tent, which means it's really good for blacking out bedrooms. If you're staying in a camper van or a caravan or something like that, you may want to get some blackout blinds that you can stick on the windows. This is also relevant if you're in a mobile home. Some mobile homes will come with blackout blinds, however they don't always. So you can get on Amazon these like sticky Velcro blackout blinds that you can just stick on your windows, or alternatively we have used a black bin bag with some masking tape on the windows as well, just so baby's like kind of used to the environment. And in that sense as well, we make sure that we have baby's toys. We call them Doodoos in France, like a lovey, or I don't know what you'd call it, a comforter, something like that. They're baby's favourite comforter. Sleeping bags, we love like the zippy up sleeping bags when our children were really little. They soon started escaping that as soon as they turned about 1 year old, which wasn't ideal. And then depending on the campsite you stay at, you can normally hire baby equipment. So you can hire cots, high chairs, potties, changing mats, things like that. However, the cots don't always come with a mattress. If you sterilise your bottles, it's not really common in Europe. They don't actually recommend sterilising every time that a baby uses a bottle. Make sure you bring your own equipment. Another tip, if you are a breastfeeding mum, you need to think about comfy seating, because I was breastfeeding, I was pumping and everything in a tent, sat on the floor, and quite honestly it's the most uncomfortable thing ever. And then camping chairs, they're really inconvenient for breastfeeding too. Sitting on the bed, very inconvenient for breastfeeding. So definitely look into some sort of chair or comfy seating area that you can make in your tent, in your camper van, in your caravan, whatever, to make your breastfeeding more comfortable. Now I'm going to talk about mobile homes. I mean, I've obviously touched on it already. However, mobile homes will be so much easier for your first time camping abroad with a baby if that's what you so wish. They have aircon, they have comfort stuff already there. You can fly somewhere and stay in a mobile home. It's going to be much easier for you with a baby or a toddler or both. It's literally going to be the most stress-free way to do it, I personally think. Like I said, you can hire equipment from the campsites normally, so the cot, the high chair, the potty, the baby bath, all of it you can hire. However, you need to make sure you do it really ahead of when you're coming to make sure they'll have the stock. And secondly, if your baby is really young, that cot is very unlikely to fit in your bedroom. You can sometimes push the bed really close to the wall and fit the cot in the bedroom with you, but the most likely situation is that you can fold over under a twin bed, put it under the other twin bed, and then you sleep on a twin bed and the cot goes next to you. So it means you would be sleeping on your own, but the baby would be in the room with you. When you stay in a mobile home, when you stay in like a higher tier mobile home with companies like Eurocamp, some of the time you're going to find that you'll have a decking gate. Now these are a lifesaver with crawling toddlers, just walking babies, toddlers. The decking gates are great at stopping them from falling down the stairs, which has definitely happened to us on campsites without decking gates. Like I mentioned with the tent camping, blackout blinds are a great way to get baby to fall asleep. A lot of mobile homes will come with them, but again, it's not a guarantee, so you might want to pack your own solution, either black bin bag masking tape or some that you can get on Amazon. I'll drop a link in the description below. You're going to want some snacks. The snacks here are going to be different, you know, like the portable pouches and things like that. I've never really seen them abroad. You only really get them in like Tesco. So in this part of the video, I want to talk to you about my must-have gear for camping with a baby and a toddler. And I'm going to start with a carrier. Now, a baby carrier is amazing. It's so much more convenient than a pushchair, especially if you're on a campsite that's hilly, gravelly, near a beach, anything. Carriers, stick them on your back, go. Stick them on your front, cuddle, baby, go. Let them fall asleep in it. Amazing. Next thing is a glow-in-the-dark dummy. When you're staying in a tent, this was amazing. These like Tommy Teepee ones that had like the glow-in-the-dark bit on them. Our baby would lose them all the time in her sleep, so we'd be like, oh my god, where are they? And then we found these glow-in-the-dark ones, and they were so easy to find. Obviously you have to charge them in the light though, so don't just leave them in the cot area because they won't get the charge that they need. White noise machine. We are in love with white noise. In fact, we started using them with our now 5-year-old when she was a baby, and we now use it to go to sleep ourselves because we just sleep so much more soundly when we have white noise on. Our children sleep more soundly with white noise. It's like I can zone in on the white noise and just fall straight asleep, and every other sound around me is blocked out. If you're on a very noisy campsite, which obviously you probably won't plan to be, but sometimes things happen and it ends up quite noisy, there's an event on or whatever, babies fall asleep like that. It's like womb sounds. They're just great. definitely invest in a white noise machine if you haven't already. The next thing is a high chair, either a small foldable one, which we usually take with us for the campsites, or a Saka seat. Now, like I said, the campsites will often provide a high chair. However, when you're on the road stopping at a service station, the foldable high chair is amazing, and when you go out to a restaurant, the Saka seats are also amazing because they fit on pretty much any chair, so you can have like a toddler sat next to you, or even if there is a high chair at the restaurant, you'll find a lot of them don't actually have straps, and so she could just like sit there and just go and slide out underneath, which obviously would not be great. Some water play, like buckets and watering cans, things like that. Children love it, and if you've got an emplacement with water on it, or you've got an area outside where you can access water, it's going to keep them so busy, and it means you can chill, relax, have a glass of wine on the decking, have some sauces on in peace, just relax with children playing with water, obviously if it's warm enough to play with water. Obviously on a campsite clothes will get dirty. To protect a little bit with mealtime, because obviously that's like 3 meals a day, that's 3 outfits a day in theory with babies, toddlers, etc. Make sure you pack bibs, like, you know, the overall type, that like the aprons that like literally cover them from head to toe. Pack them, or just let them eat naked. Those are your 2 options, because otherwise you're going to be going through so many clothes, and you don't want to know how much it costs to wash clothes on a campsite. You can obviously hand wash, but we have children, we don't have the time to hand wash everything, so yeah, it's about £6 just to wash, and then if you want to dry, it's another like £6, or you can just hang it up. And lastly, pack loads of toys, loads of books, loads of painting, some Dobble activities that little children are going to love. I mean, Dobble is a bit old for a baby and a toddler, but you know, they can look at cards. Any sort of activity that your baby or your toddler loves, pack it, if you have the space, obviously. If you are flying with your baby or toddler, you're obviously going to have to be more frugal with how much you can actually bring with you. With Ryanair, EasyJet, I'm not sure about the other companies, but you do get 2 child items for free, as well as your like baby change bag and your hand luggage, obviously booking on luggage as well. People tend to pack like the car seat and the push chair. I normally take a carry-on as just like an extra item of clothing, so I don't normally account for that. Another tip when you are flying somewhere is to either sit at the front or the back of the plane and race yourself off of that aeroplane as fast as you can, because in England or in the UK, assumably the whole of the UK as well, is the same as England and London airports, which I know. There you have child-friendly queues where you get off and it's like passport control. Oh, you have children? Okay, straight through this line. If you are in France, Spain, Italy, anywhere else like that, they don't always have child-friendly queues. So you will join the normal passport control queue with everybody else, and it takes so long. So if you're queuing with a baby or a toddler, it's absolute hell on earth, because they're hungry, they've been sat in a seat for the last like 2 hours, they want some water, they just want to get out of this airport. So get off that plane as fast as you can. If you're sailing to your campsite, then I personally recommend the Brittany Ferries options, because they are long overnight crossings in a comfy room, and I just think it's better. Like if you sail at night, then you can get in your room, babies can sleep really well. I go like the Portsmouth to Ouistreham or the Portsmouth to St Malo crossings. I find them really convenient. The only problem with the Brittany Ferries crossings is they are so much more expensive than the P&O and the DFDS crossings. However, they will generally get you to a better location in France for accessing campsites, whereas the P&O sailing, they go to Calais. Now Calais is great if you're heading up to the Netherlands, or you're staying around this side of France, but this side of France just doesn't really have that much. Or if you're travelling south, if you're doing that long journey down, then Calais is fine. However, if you're staying in northern France, like the Brittany or Normandy sort of areas, then you're going to want to do the St Malo or the Ouistreham crossings or the Roscoff or any of these across the northern coast here. One compromise I do find is the DFDS Dieppe New Haven crossing. That one is a little bit better for access where you are in France and access in the UK, but I don't actually like the roads around New Haven. However, it's a cheaper crossing and it gets you to an okay location in France. When we do sail, we obviously make sure we get a cabin. They normally have like the 4-berth cabins, and you can get a cot that will fit just in between the 2 bottom beds, but it is such a tight squeeze. It's fine. It doesn't really make a difference because you're normally in there at night, but it is a tight squeeze. I did try a Commodore cabin once, and 100% recommend it. Don't recommend the price tag, but I recommend the cabin because there was so much space, and baby had like a separate cot area, and we had like this massive double bed, which was like, it's like being on like a luxury cruise or something instead of just a Brittany ferries over to France. So my battery is very close to running out, and I didn't bring a spare with me, so I'm going to rush through my final tips. And I'm going to start with, always book somewhere with an indoor pool, especially if you're in northern France, actually anywhere, because weather can be so temperamental, and having an indoor pool is such a great space for babies, especially if there's like a toddler splasher area. So definitely look for somewhere that has an indoor pool. And the last thing is, lots of people are going to tell you to ignore having a schedule when you are camping or holidaying with a baby. I don't think that's the case for everyone. Actually, we have thrived from having a schedule when we go away. The babies have the same bedtime that they do at home. We have the same sort of wake up routine. We basically make sure we have a routine when we go somewhere, like we go for a walk in the morning, we go for a coffee, we do all these things that are routine, because it actually makes our life so much easier than if we don't have a routine. If we don't have a routine, it can end up absolute chaos. So for us, a routine works, but it might not work for everybody. Yeah, I hope you liked the video. I hope that you do take your children on holiday in Europe. I personally think yes. However, some people, probably the people in the tent next to you, might think no. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video, which will be, by the way, so subscribe, my top 15 campsites for babies and toddlers. So definitely subscribe to the channel if you want to see that video. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.